and the Eye for an Eye podcast contains materials that may not be suited for all audiences. Listener discretion is advised.
Hi!
Hola.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to an Eye for an Eye podcast. I'm your host, Lisa, and I'm here with Matthew.
Hola.
Hola. Yeah, we're here. What's up? It's episode, 8? Where are we at? 9. Is it 9? It's 9!
Can we count?
No, apparently not. Shit.
That's why we're doing true crime.
Is it really 9? Yeah, it's 9. Wow. Episode 9. That's really fine. Hey.
Hey!
But yeah, so we're here with episode 9. We'll get into it here in a second, but I wanted to just give a shout out to our listeners so far. It keeps growing every week. It's incredible.
We love it.
We still would love to hear your feedback, love to get you guys engaged with some conversations about the show.
You can talk about us if you want, but we're not that interested.
Yeah, no, about the show, and obviously we'd love to hear your feedback on the show in general, and what we could do better, what we're killing it at, what we're losing it at, whatever really you feel.
Give us the nitty gritty, man.
Yeah, give us all that feedback. We really enjoy it. If you want to be on an episode, we're always open to having guests on the show. We have a few lined up still in the making. So if you want to be on the show, please give us a shout out, and we will shout back at you and get you on the show, which is super exciting. And I just wanted to shout out, so our listeners, it kind of breaks it down by where the country they're from, and I thought it was really interesting. So shout out to all of our listeners. We have listeners in Mongolia, in Indonesia, in Georgia, in India. In the Netherlands, in Italy, in Denmark, in Norway, in Sweden, Ireland, New Zealand, Japan, Australia, Canada, UK, and of course the United States. So I just want to shout out all those countries because we don't have enough feedback from all of you guys. I can't shout you out by name, but I'd love to, so hit us up. Let us know.
Yeah, because we've hardly been to any of these places, so somebody has to be talking about us.
Yeah, and we'll come hang
other
out.
Than us. So
yeah.
Please hit us up. We'd love to talk to you.
But I just thought that was really cool. Shout out to all the countries and all you people and everyone that's supporting us. That's pretty cool, and I'm super geeked about it, right?
That's why we're doing it, man.
So awesome. Let us know how you feel, and let's get into this case, Matt.
Yeah, so my heart rate's going here a little bit, you guys. This is our first serial killer we're doing. It's been 10 years, roughly, since this trial took place, but it's still so relevant.
Oh, yeah, because he's one of the most infamous.
One of the most infamous killers in recent history. His name, his name is pretty well known, but I think he's better known by the short acronym.
Yep. So
which
who are we talking about?
He created for himself. We're talking about BTK, Dennis Rader.
Yep, the BTK killer.
The BTK serial killer.
That's why they call him BTK. He actually named himself BTK. Bind, torture, and kill.
He would bind them up, he would torture them, and then he would kill BTK.
BTKs.
It was signed with the initials BTK. B stands for bind, T stands for torture, and K stands for kill. Bind, torture, kill.
A serial killer was stalking Wichita.
BTK's, but it was BTK.
BTK.
The words for me. Bind them, torture them, kill them. Accounts of a serial killer. A monster known only by his cryptic calling card.
The killer called himself BTK. Bind them, torture them, kill them.
BTK. He even suggests the name he'd like to be known by.
The killer called himself BTK. Bind them, torture them, kill them.
BTK. BTK.
BTK was a man known as BTK, short for bind, torture, kill. BTK, fearing the BTK case by BTK, but should BTK ever resurface, they would play on his biggest weakness.
The killer was writing his own book, The BTK Story.
Isn't that fucking crazy? Like serial killers get these monikers.
That's the crazy thing about these
What would you be
cases.
called if you were a serial killer? I want to know. Just everybody, listen up, because if Matt ever goes on a killing spree and you see this symbol or thing anywhere,
What would I call it? I mean, would I want people to know?
I'd do something with cheese.
You do something with cheese, you probably would.
The
too.
cheesy bitch murders. Just kidding. I'm never gonna kill anyone. So
I was gonna say I don't know if I'd want to be the one coming up with the name. Because
well,
then
we'll find out that he pretty much gave
he
them
did,
his name.
Yeah, he came up with the name. So I think Zodiac did too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, there's a couple.
That's how
We're
you know
not
you're
like
fucked up.
these people.
Yeah, so let's get into it. So we're talking here about Dennis Rader, like Matt said. Dennis Rader was born in 1945 in Pittsburgh, Kansas, which is kind of funny because if you know Matt and I, you know where we're from.
Pittsburgh, PA. Shout out the real Pittsburgh.
Hey, with the H.
End.
Yeah.
Put the H on the end, man. Kansas, y'all fucking up.
Yeah. But he did grow up in Wichita, Kansas, not
Yes.
Pittsburgh, but that's where he was born.
That's where the majority of these crimes took place.
Yeah, which is, ugh. He was the eldest of 4 sons, and his mother's name was Dorothea May Rader, and his father's name was William Elvin Vader, which is kind of funny.
Darth.
Or did I type that wrong? Maybe his last name was Rader.
I think it's Raider. This dude is Darth.
He should have just been called Darth Vader, honestly. That should have been. So that was the typo on my part. It is William Elvin Rader.
We'll edit that out, probably.
Yeah. So, obviously, at this time, Matt, people weren't aware what was going on behind the scenes. But later we find out that during his early years, Dennis Rader was already into some sick shit.
Yeah.
As part of the McDonald triad. He was getting into torturing animals, killing animals. He was fascinated in ending creatures' lives, tearing them apart, torturing them.
And we're talking full on, like, he would mutilate things after killing them because he was interested to see what it looked like.
Yeah.
According to him.
Yeah.
So you're talking that I'm glad you mentioned the McDonald triad because that does really highlight the early indicators of a serial killer's tendencies. I don't really know at what point people caught on with Dennis Rader, but I think
after, I don't think they did.
Yeah, I don't think anybody really noticed, and that even goes to how subversive he must have been in doing all this.
Well, that's the thing. It's like during his early life is when all this was going on because we wanted to give you guys a little background, but we didn't find this out till well after he was caught. People weren't aware. He admitted to hanging cats, hanging a dog. Like, that's sick shit. Like, that's just sick.
Cutting them open.
Yeah, just gross. And it was also discussed, like I said, this is all after the fact. Obviously, hindsight is very clear, 2020. During this, I don't know how anyone missed all of this, but apparently he also developed a sexual fetish around stealing and wearing women's underwear. So he was not only torturing and mutilating animals, he was also dabbling in a cross-dressing situation where he would steal people's underwear and wear them and walk around. And I think it has nothing to do with the actual people who cross-dress. Like, it's absolutely not the same. But I think in his case, it's a control thing.
Mm-hmm.
And also a fetish. Obviously, it was a sexual a sexually gratifying situation for him.
Right.
And he also discussed in what people think is his autobiography, but it's never been really confirmed because I'm pretty sure he's not allowed to profit off of anything he's done because he's disgusting. But in what is called Chapter 2 and Dawn, he describes how he developed violent sexual fantasies at a young age. Now, Matt, he said that he wrote when he was a little boy, he secretly looked at quote-unquote girly books.
Yeah.
Which I think is porn, right?
I believe
Is that what because he said it,
yeah.
He called it SM and BD, so sadomasochism and bondage and domination, is that what that stands for?
Sadomasochism, bondage, and domination is,
yeah.
SMB.
So that's what he referred to as girly books, and he said that kick-started a violent sexual fantasy where he got off seeing people being bound, people being gagged, people being, all of, I'm sure, even more detailed and graphic than that. So this just seemed to develop. I'm not sure how any of this starts, honestly. Like, I wish I could dig into the brain of a killer, like when he was little, not now, hindsight. Because it's like, where do you look at an animal and think I want to murder it? You know what I mean? I just don't understand where that comes from. Obviously, I'm not a serial killer, so I can't really relate on any form. But do you think with a lot of these serial killers that anyone could have stepped in and said, what the fuck is happening here?
I think at times people probably must have seen that there was some indication, especially like it talks about he had siblings.
Yeah, he has 3 siblings.
Yeah, he was probably at some point inclined to mention it to somebody.
Or someone saw something off with him, little creepy things here and there.
The problem is so many of these things get diagnosed as, oh, it's just a phase, or oh, it's just like a weird thing. Like, it's actually...
Take this shit seriously. If you see your kid hanging your pets, let's talk to them.
Then you got a real problem.
If you realize your underwear is missing and your child's smirking in the corner, maybe we should do something about it. At age 18, Dennis Rader admitted that he started peeping into windows. So he would go to people's windows, presumably of his neighbors, and look in and kind of survey the land. And sometimes he would even go in and steal the women's panties. So he was all about the fucking panties. I'll never understand that.
Yeah, he really liked women's underwear.
I don't understand. And it's like a real thing. If you ever watched Orange is the New Black, they brought it up, but it's a real thing. Like, people like panties. I don't get it. It's gross.
I think they suck, personally. I am not a fan at all. I don't think women should wear them. But that's neither here nor there.
But yeah, so that's when Dennis was 18. So clearly from a young age, this shit started. He was fantasizing, killing animals, window peeping, stealing underwear, wearing these underwear, just really balls deep in this fantasy that he had.
Yeah, peeping Tom is another thing, too, that a lot of people dismiss as it's just kind of a phase or, oh, that's a little weird. No, I mean, that's a problem. There's a lot of predators that start as peeping Toms and become graduated into something much more dangerous.
And when you're peeping Tom, it's kind of like more methodical. You're really thinking out. Like, obviously, you can't get caught, so you're
really... You took the time to be elusive. You took the time to be subversive. You took the time to pick out a target.
And especially Dennis Rader, we'll see this continue on to when he starts actually committing, bigger crimes. He was a member of the United States Air Force from 1966 to 1970, so only for about 4 years. And he referred during that time to fantasies, drawings, and pictures, and he would draw these scenes, these sadomasochistic scenes where people are being bound and tortured and raped and whatever, and he would draw them out because that's all he could do on base, and then he would destroy them when he moved from base to base and would start over again when the feeling started coming back. So he really had strong fantasies, and he really tried to find different ways to act out on them. And in this case, when he was in the military, he did admit, saying he always had to destroy his pictures when he moved from base to base. We would start over again when the feelings started coming back. Now, in Communications Police Leader that year, BTK actually included disturbing drawings of naked and bound women, which I'm imagining is what he was drawing when he was on base.
Yes.
Upon his discharge from the military, he moved to Park City, and that's where he started working odds and ends jobs. He worked in the meat department of a supermarket, the same market that his mom was a bookkeeper at, which I don't understand how you can be a bookkeeper at a meat department. Maybe it was like a department store that just sold meat in one of the sections.
I don't really know what that means. I guess she's an accountant for a butcher.
Yeah. And keep in mind, this is just the background, but it's during all of this that he started really acting out his fantasy. So I just wanted to give the overview first, and then we'll get into what was going on. Wow, this is what people saw on the outside. We're going to give you a little detail on what happened on the inside in a minute here. So on May 22nd, which is 11 days after my birthday, if you want to wish me happy birthday on May 11th, please do. In 1971, he married Paula Dietz and had 2 children with her. So he has kids at this point. He's a married man. And he also attended Butler County Community College in 1973 in El Dorado, where he earned an associate's degree in electronics. 1973, he was in college. So he's moving and grooving throughout town, very elusive. No one suspects anything different from this man. But which is weird, because if you look at him now, obviously we know what he did, but he's a fucking creepy man.
Oh, yeah.
He just seems dead inside.
To look at him, and I encourage everybody, we're going to absolutely have to throw some clips in here, but it's, I encourage everybody to go and watch the full tape of his confession.
Oh, we're definitely adding clips in here.
Yeah. We are. I know. But, I mean,
the full thing is just scary.
The full thing is scary. I mean, you really get to see his face and his demeanor the entire way through the trial. It's almost like you think this guy was talking about, how you cooking this steak for us before the game, dude. He's like, oh, I'm going to put some nice garlic with some Worcestershire and, a little. You're like, no, he's literally talking about how he. All right, we'll
get into it.
It's disturbing, is what we're getting at.
It's really fucked up. So 6 years later, after he attended Butler County Community College for his degree in electronics, he went back to Wichita State University, where he then obtained his bachelor's degree in administration of justice, which is kind of ironic.
Kind of ironic.
Yeah. Although back then it might have been a little bit different. So after college, like I said, he worked odds and ends jobs. He worked as an assembler for an outdoor supply company. And in 1974, this is scary as fuck. But in 1974, because mind you, like I said, this is just the outline of what the outside world thought was going on with this man's life. During this exact time, crazy shit was happening. So just keep that in mind when I read this next job he had. Matt, he worked for ADT Security Services.
Yes, he did.
Installing
security alarms.
And a lot of these people reported that the reason they were getting the security is because a serial killer was on the loose.
Yep, there were break-ins. Yep, exactly. So here's what I want to interject here, Lisa. What we've just discussed about Dennis Rader was that he was married, he was educated, he was in the military, he had a respectable job. I don't think we've said it yet, but we're going to mention the fact that he was an ordained minister at one point. This guy was by all means the normal guy. Like, kind of your ideal family guy. Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Not Peter Griffin, but I'm saying he was literally like what you would imagine as nicest guy in the world.
Yeah.
Family man.
He was the Christ Lutheran Church's president of their council.
Right.
And he was a Cub Scout leader. But Matt, like you said, he there was no real red flags about him except for when he started working as a dog catcher with Park City after his ADT position. So when he started working as a dog catcher, people started realizing his demeanor was a little off, a little more mean, strict. He was reported by his neighbors to be really harsh about like animal control laws, often euthanizing dogs when it wasn't necessary at all.
Yeah.
Like if this motherfucker came after Peanut or Sasha, he wouldn't even had a chance to kill anybody else.
What court?
Yeah.
What
honestly.
judge?
Yeah. So that's really when people decided, okay, this guy's a little strange, he's a little harsh, he's a little tough, and he's kind of creepy. He's starting to creep us out. We're starting to see this other side of this man that seems like he's on this power trip because he's a dog catcher. And, so that's when they really started seeing that part of Dennis Rader. Now, on March 2nd, 2005, Matt, that's fucking 13 years ago. That's not that far back.
This was very recent.
Yeah,
and
we were alive.
Considering the cases we've done, this is one of the more recent ones. I mean, when we talked about Michelle Carter and Heather Beck, which were literally very recent.
Yeah.
But this is a significant... This case became national news instantly because BTK was...
terrorizing.
He was terrorizing people for 2 decades before it became...
Which is so fucking crazy to me.
So crazy.
So... Like I said, on March 2nd, 2005, Dennis Rader was terminated from his Park City position as a dog catcher for failing to report to work or call in to report himself as absent that day. Now, he was terminated immediately. And what the creepiest part about that is, Matt, is that the reason he didn't show up to work was because he was arrested 5 days earlier, suspected of multiple homicides.
Yeah, that's why he got fired, because he was in jail for...
Well, they didn't know that. They fired him because he didn't show up.
They fired him because he didn't show up.
But the reason he didn't show up is because he was in jail.
In jail for murder.
So, like I said, this is, like, as we outline it, all of the horrible shit we're about to talk about was going on in between all this. Like Matt said, it was 2 decades of just insanity. And what we outlined seems like a normal guy, maybe a little strict, maybe a little here and there off, but like normal man, normal family man, normal jobs. And little did we know, in between all this shit, Papa was out fucking people up.
Papa.
Like, dad's not home
Wow.
for dinner. Where is he? Staying late at work? No, he's fucking murdering people.
No, he's murdering the neighbors.
Yeah,
actually.
so...
He's fine. He'll be fine.
Yeah, well, it's important to note that on July 26th, his wife was granted an immediate divorce. I don't know exactly how that works. I know divorce processes are super long and drawn out, super complicated, but I'm imagining when murder's involved, they're like, get the fuck out. Let's like chop her name off of his right now. So that's a good sign, at least.
Well, I don't know exactly how divorce proceedings go either. I've never been married or divorced, but I would imagine that irreconcilable differences would fit under the category of my husband is a serial rapist and murderer.
All right, Matt. So it's time to get into this shit, this craziness. Now...
Yeah, let's talk about what it was that actually he did.
And keep in mind the time frames. Like I said, I just went through the overview of what the outsider looking in thought was going on.
Mm-hmm.
Now we're about to go into what was actually going on.
This is what we know after the fact from him in his area.
Yeah.
So
on January 15th, 1974, Dennis Rader broke into the Otero family home. Now, what better way to show you guys what happened, tell you guys what happened, than let him do it himself?
Literally.
Like I said, this is fucking crazy. It's fucked up. And we're going to get into more details about each of these. But he does have a full confession. It's all on YouTube. And I'm going to play a little piece of that right now. It's, warning, it's fucking disgusting. And the way he, like Matt said, the way he talks about this shit is like he's describing how to cook a steak. So just keep that in mind when you listen to this. But
what drapes are you picking
All
up,
right,
Dennis?
Mr. Rader, I need to find out more information. On that particular day, the 15th day of January, 1974, can you tell me where you went to kill Mr. Joseph Otero?
I think it's 1834. Edgemore.
All right. Can you tell me approximately what time of day you went there?
Somewhere between 7 and 7:30.
This particular location, did you know these people?
No, that's no, that was part of my, I guess my what you call fantasy. These people were selected.
All right, so you
Okay.
you were engaged in some kind of fantasy during this period of time?
real quick, I want to bring something up because I'm watching the video, obviously, as we're playing it. And his lawyer is whispering shit to him. Matt, what do you think she's saying? Like, admit it all? Or, like, what, like, I guess neither of us are lawyers,
No,
but...
I think she was actually telling him the exact opposite.
Like, stop fucking talking?
No. Just kind of stick to very basic, truthful, direct answers.
Yeah.
Don't go into too much detail about why. Because I'm sure, to be honest with you, he wanted to.
Well, he kind of did.
I know. I think that was what the judge wanted, but I think he probably intended to give the full Monty, and his attorney was like, "Listen, man, you're gonna go to death row regardless. You shouldn't tell them everything.
Yeah,
for the sake of the people's family."
So I was wondering, because like I said, if you watch this video, which we'll post links to all of this everywhere, you see her whisper to him almost every time he starts talking, or he looks to her before he continues going on. But all right, we're gonna keep going.
Sure. All right. Now, when you use the term fantasy, is this something you were doing for your personal pleasure?
Sexual fantasy, sir.
I see. So you went to this residence, and what occurred then?
Well, I had did some thinking on what I was going to do to either Mrs. Otero or Josephine, and basically broke into the house, or didn't break into the house, but when they came out of the house, I came in and confronted the family, and then we went from there.
All right. Had you planned this beforehand?
To some degree, yes. After I got in the house, I lost control of it, but it was, in the back of my mind, I had some ideas what I was going to do, but I basically panicked that first day. So
beforehand, did you know who was there in the house?
I thought Mrs. Otero and the two kids, the two younger kids, were in the house. I didn't realize Mr. Otero was going to be there.
All right. How did you get into the house, Mr. Ray?
I came through the back door, cut the phone lines, waited at the back door, had reservations about even going or just walking away, but pretty soon the door opened and I was in.
All
right, so the door opened. Was it open for you, or did someone?
I think one of the kids, I think the junior, or not junior, yes, the young girl, Joseph, opened the door. He probably let the dog out because the dog was in the house at that time.
All right, when you went into the house, what happened then?
Well, I confronted the family, pulled a pistol, confronted Mr. Otero, and asked him to, that I was there to, basically, I was wanted to get the car. I was hungry, food, I was wanted, and asked him to lie down in the living room. And at that time, I realized that wouldn't be a really good idea. So the dog was a real problem, so I asked Mr. Otero if he could get the dog out. So he had one of the kids put it out. And I took him back to the bedroom.
You took who back to the bedroom?
The family, the bedroom, the 4 members.
All right, what happened then?
At that time, I tied him up.
So, listening to him talk, it's almost, scary to me. It is scary, but I think,
And looking at him, it's just so fucking...
watching he's just very... His demeanor is so relaxed. You really think he could be talking about something nonchalant, Uncle Dennis, what's going on at work? Oh, I took the family back to the bedroom, bound them up one by one, and you're like, literally, it's like...
It's just like, is he
This
that
is the
far
mind
removed?
of a psychopath,
Yeah,
people.
you're right.
This is the mind of a psychopath, people. Just keep in mind that's what you're listening to right now.
Yeah, it's fucking terrifying.
It's terrifying.
While still holding him at gunpoint?
Well, in between tying and yes. Yeah.
All right, after you tied them up, what occurred?
Well, they started complaining about being tied up, and I re-loosened the bonds a couple of times.
No fucking shit. They started complaining about being tied up. What is this motherfucker talking about?
He's talking like, they were annoyed that I was in their house tying them up with a gun to their heads.
Yeah, get the fuck out of here. All right.
Tried to make Mr. Otero as comfortable as I could. Apparently had a cracked rib from a car accident, so I had him put a pillow down for his head. Had he put I think he's Parker or a coat underneath him. They talked to me about giving the car and whatever money. I guess they didn't have very much money, and there I realized that I didn't have a mask on or anything. They already could ID me, and made a decision to go ahead and put them down, I guess, or strangle them.
All right.
He just said, I made the decision to put them down like it's a fucking dog that has terminal cancer. He made the decision to put them down.
Because they had seen his face. He did not wear a mask.
But, don't you think if he didn't wear a mask, he came in with the notion that,
he wasn't going out of there without killing them?
Yeah, I think that part's bullshit. I think he always had it in his mind to kill these people. But that was just something I wanted to point out because it was gross.
What did you do to Joseph Otero Sr.?
Joseph Otero?
Yeah, okay. Joseph Otero Sr., Mr. Otero, the father.
I put a plastic bag over his head and then some cords and tightened it.
This was in the bedroom?
Yes, sir.
Did he, in fact, suffocate and die as a result of this?
Not right away. No, sir, he didn't.
What happened?
Well, after that, I did Mrs. Otero. I had never strangled anyone before, so I really didn't know how much pressure you had to put on a person or how long it would take. But
was she also tied up there in the
yes,
bedroom?
Yeah, both her hands and their feet were tied up. She was on the bed.
Where were the children?
Josephine was on the bed, and Junior was on the floor this time.
So we're talking first of all about Joseph Otero. So you put the bag over his head and tied it, and he did not die right away. Can you tell me what happened in regards to Joseph?
He moved over real quick, and I think tore a hole in the bag, and I could tell that he was having some problems there. But at that time, the whole family just went panicked on me, so I worked pretty quick.
You worked pretty quick.
Well, I strangled Mrs. Otero, and she went out, or passed out. I thought she was dead. She passed out. Then I strangled Josephine. She passed out, or I thought she was dead. And then I went over and put a bag on Junior's head, and then if I remember right, Mrs. Otero came back. She came back and.
Sir, let me ask you about Joseph Otero Sr. You
Senior.
indicated he had torn a hole in the bag. And what did you do with him then?
I put another bag over it, or either that, or I recollect. I think I put either a cloth or a T-shirt or something over his head, and then another bag, and then tied it down.
Did he subsequently die?
Well, yes. I didn't just stay there and watch him. I was moving around the room. But.
All right. So you indicated you strangled Mrs. Otero after you had done this. Is that correct?
Now I went back and strangled her again, and that finally killed her at that time.
So this is in regards to count 2. You had, first of all, put the bag over Joseph Otero's head, and he tore a hole in the bag. Then you went ahead. Did you strangle Mrs. Otero then,
okay.
Or did you go
First of all, Mr. Otero was strangled, or a bag put over his head and strangled. Then I thought he was going down, and I went over and strangled Mrs. Otero. I thought she was down. Then I strangled Josephine. I thought she was down. And then I went over to Junior and put the bag on his head. After that, Mrs. Otero woke back up, and she was pretty upset what's going on. So I came back, and at that point in time, strangled her for the death strangle at that time.
With your hands or what?
No, with a cord, with a rope. And then I think at that point in time, I redid Mr. Otero, put the bag over his head, went over, and then took Junior. Before that, she asked me to save her son. So I actually had taken the bag off, and then I was really upset at that point in time. So basically, when Mr. Otero was down, Mrs. Otero was down, I went ahead and took Junior. I put another bag over his head and took him to the other bedroom at that time.
What did you do then?
Put a bag over his head. I put a cloth over his head, a T-shirt, and a bag so he couldn't tear a hole in it. And he subsequently died from that. And then when I went back, Josephine had woke back up.
What did you do then?
And I took her to the basement and eventually hung her.
You hung her in the basement?
Yes, sir.
Did you do anything else at that time?
Yes, I had some sexual fantasies. But that was after she was hung.
All right. What did you do then?
We went through the house, kind of cleaned it up. It's called the right-hand rule. You go from room to room. Picked everything up. I think I took Mr. Otero's watch. I guess I took a radio. I forgot about that, but apparently I took a radio.
Why did you take these things?
I don't know. I have no idea. Just
what happened then?
I got the keys to the car. In fact, I had the keys, I think, earlier before that because I wanted to make sure I had a way of getting out of the house. And clean the house up a little bit, make sure everything's packed up, and left through the front door. And went over to their car, and then drove over to Dylan's, left the car there, then eventually walked back to my car.
All right. Now, sir, from what you have just said, I take it that the facts you've told me apply to both counts 1, all of counts 1, 2, 3, and 4. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Now, Mr. Rader.
Yes. And that is, originally I believe he indicated 1834 Edgemore. The address was actually 803 Edgemore.
All right, so that's that sick fuck going over what he did to this poor family in stupid detail. It was known, obviously this is how BTK got his name. He loved to taunt the police and newspapers.
Yes.
He took note from other serial killers in the past. He loved the idea of playing this cat and mouse game and trying his best not to get caught, right? So clearly he wasn't that smart because he was caught. But in October of 1974, they found a letter stashed inside an engineering book in the Wichita Public Library, and that detailed the killing of the Otero family in January that year.
So this note read, "It's hard to control myself. You probably call me psychotic with sexual perversion hang-up." He warned that he would strike again, actually, after that, saying, "The code words for me will be bind them, torture them, kill them. BTK." And those initials actually became what he was known for, obviously. Became many variations from there. The BTK Killer, simply just BTK.
So he named himself.
Yeah, that moniker stuck for a while. Sickeningly enough, he came up with that. So then on April 4th, 1974, this was a few months.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, a few months after the Otero family.
They were in October.
Yes.
No, they were in January.
Yeah, they were in January. Yeah, so this was 3 months after this. So yeah, not much of a cooling off period here, but which is very interesting because, and this is one of the reasons we wanted to do BTK first, because he is so interesting. He's one of the very interesting killers, and I mean that in the sense that he was intelligent enough to lead a functioning life, evade police capture for a long period of time. He was still sending letters to these guys.
Do you think part of that is because like DNA wasn't, or do you really think he cleaned his tracks so
Part
well?
of it was DNA that they didn't have. Plus, you're in Wichita. This isn't New York City, you know.
Yeah.
So I'd say part of it was DNA evidence wasn't to the best of its abilities. Now it also was probably, you know, a lot of it was probably first time for most of these people. You know, they never really had experienced a serial killer. Wasn't like that.
Yeah.
So I'm sure for law enforcement it was a difficult time.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, like Matt was saying, only 4 months later?
Yeah.
3, I guess. 3 months later. He did what? Take it away, Matt.
Yep. So on April 4th, 1974, he waited in the apartment of a young woman named Catherine Bright, and when she returned home from work, he began stabbing and strangling her. Now, she died, obviously, and then Rader also shot her brother, Kevin, twice, although he survived, and was able to describe Dennis Rader as an average-sized guy with a bushy mustache and psychotic eyes.
Yeah.
So that's very...
It's scary, but thank goodness there was a witness. Although it doesn't seem like it did very much because he didn't
he was
get
not
caught.
captured.
Now here's Rader talking about this particular incident or murder. I guess why would I call it an incident? Murder, this heinous crime.
There were different people in the town that I followed, watched. Kathleen Bright was one of the next targets, I guess, as I would indicate.
How did you select her?
Just driving by one day, and I saw her go in the house with somebody else, and I thought that's a possibility. There was many places in the area. College Hill, they're all over Wichita. But anyway, it just was basically a selection process. Work toward it. If it didn't work, I just move on to something else. But my kind of person, stalking and scrolling, you go through the trolling stage and then a stalking stage. She was in the stalking stage when this happened.
All right, sir. So you identified Catherine Bright as a potential victim.
Yes, sir.
What did you do here in Sedgwick County then?
Pardon?
What did you do then here in Sedgwick County?
On this particular day,
yes,
I broke into the house and waited for her to come home.
How did you break into the house?
Through the back door on the east side.
All right, and you waited for her to come home. Where
Yes,
did
sir.
you wait?
In the house there, probably close to the bedroom. I walked through the house and kind of figured out where I'd be if they came through.
All right. What happened then?
She and Kevin Bright came in. I wasn't expecting him to be there. And come find out, I guess they were related. That time I approached him and told him I was wanted in California, needed some car. Basically the same thing that I told the Oteros. Kind of ease them, make them feel better. And proceeded to, I think I had him.
Wait, can we go over that real quick? Why did he care about making them feel better?
Yeah, that To me, it was always a little confusing as well. I wanted,
Like, it was weird because in a lot of these, it's like he comforted these
yeah,
people.
he made them. He even said, "Mr. Otero, I made him as comfortable as possible." You know, or
And then one of the next ones that we're gonna go over.
yeah, like tried to make it easier on them. He says, and it's almost like I don't know if it's a
like a
last second
control
sense
thing.
of guilt. I don't know.
Or do you think it's like a sadistic thing where he's like, I'm gonna make you comfortable, then I'm gonna viciously attack you?
Maybe that's what it is too.
Like,
Could
I
be
have
that.
complete control over how this goes.
Right.
Maybe it's
Could
like that.
be that.
I don't know.
Could be very well that he was just trying to keep them calm.
Yeah.
So that he could control them even better that way. You know, like if you're in pain or you're in distress, you're going to freak out. You're going to yell. You're going to scream. If, you know, anything is wrong, if it seems like, hey, you know, maybe this guy's just tying us up and he's going to let us go.
Well, it's like Manson said. If you didn't check out our Manson episode, please check that one out. It's episode what? 4 or 5? 4? Yeah, episode 4. He actually spoke, even though he didn't kill anyone on his hands himself, but he talked about how how like killing people when they're in fear is like the worst thing you can do. Like war crime wise, like people in the war, you would make them comfortable and then kill them because you didn't want people to die with fear because like something about the devil. I don't remember, but go check out the episode if you want to hear a little bit more about that. But here's more of what he did to Catherine and her brother.
I tied her up first, and then I tied him up, or vice versa. I don't remember right now.
Let me ask. You indicated you had some items to tie these people with. Did you bring these items, both the Oteros and for this location?
The Oteros I did. I'm not really sure on the Brights. There was some, when I was working with the police, there was some controversy on that. Probably more likely I did, but if I had brought my stuff and used my stuff, Kevin would probably be dead today. I'm not bragging on that. It's just a matter of fact. It's the bonds I tied him up with that he broke them. So,
all right.
And maybe same way with Catherine. They got out of hand.
All right. Now you indicated that you believe you had Kevin tie Catherine up. Tell me what happened then.
Okay. I moved. After I really can't remember, Judge, whether I had her tie him up or she tied him up. But anyway, I moved. Basically, I moved her to another bedroom.
I don't know if you guys heard it there, but the way he says, "Okay."
Yep.
It's almost like he's relishing in the fact that he gets to finally tell everybody what he did. Like, this is me. I've been doing this. I mean, the way he just seems, I don't know if you guys think
he's just so nonchalant.
That's what it is. I mean, and that's what's spine-tingling right now. I mean,
it's just infuriating. Like, can you imagine being one of the family members of his victims?
That's what I mean. I mean, to be sitting in that courtroom and hear the way he talked about these people like they were just, projects.
Well, exactly. And we'll talk about that in a minute.
And he was already secure there by the bed. Tied his feet to the bedpost, one bedpost that he couldn't run. Kind of tied her in the other bedroom, and then I came back to strangle him. And at that time, we had a fight.
Were you armed with a handgun at that time also?
Yes, I had a handgun.
What happened when you came back?
I actually had 2 handguns. I started strangling. Either the parent broke or he broke his bonds, and he jumped up real quick like. I pulled my gun and quickly shot him. Hit him in the head. He fell over. I could see the blood, and as far as I was concerned, I thought he was down and was out, and then went and started to strangle Catherine. And then we started fighting because bonds weren't very good, and so back and forth we fought.
You and Catherine?
Yeah, we fought, and I got the best of her, and I thought she was going down, and then I could hear some movement in the other room. So I went back, and Kevin, no, I thought she was going down. I went back to the other bedroom where Kevin was at, and I tried to re-strangle him at that time. And he jumped up, and we fought. And he at that time shot me because he got the other pistol that was in my shoulder here. I had my Magnum in my shoulder. So
shoulder holster. Did you have it in the shoulder holster?
Yes, and I had the Magnum in the shoulder holster. The other one was a 22. And we fought at that point in time, and I thought it was going to go off. I jammed the gun. Stuck my finger in there, jammed it, and I think he thought that was the only gun I had, because once I either bit his finger or hit him or something, got away, and I used the 22 and shot him one more time. And I thought he was down for good that time.
All right, so you shot him a second time.
Yes, sir.
What happened then?
Went back to finish the job on Catherine, and she was fighting. And at that point in time, I've been fighting her, and then I heard some, I don't know whether I was basically losing control. The strangulation wasn't working on her, and I used a knife on her.
You say you used a knife on her.
Yes.
What did you do with the knife?
I stabbed her. I think she said either stabbed 2 or 3 times, either here or here. Maybe 2 back here and 1 here, or maybe just 2 times back here.
You were pointing to your lower back and your...
Yeah, underneath the ribs.
And your lower abdomen?
Yeah, underneath the ribs. Up underneath the ribs.
So after you stabbed her, what happened?
Actually, I think at that point in time, well, it was a total mess, because I didn't have control on it. She was bleeding. She went down. I think I just went back to check on Kevin, or at that basically same time I heard him escape. It could be one of the two. But all of a sudden the front door of the house was open and he was gone. And I tell you what I thought. I thought the police were coming at that time. I heard the door open. I thought, no, that's it. And I stepped out there, and I could see him running down the street. So I quickly cleaned up everything that I could and left.
All right, now, Mr. Rader, you indicated that at the Oteros you did not have a mask gun. Did you have a mask gun at the Bright?
No, I didn't.
All right, so what happened then?
I already had the keys to the cars. And I thought I had the right key to the right car. I ran out to their car. I think it was a pickup out there. And I tried it, didn't work. And at that point in time, he was gone, running down the street.
All right, enough with that one. Basically, he fucked up. He wasn't as good as he thought he was. According to him, it's because he didn't have his materials to tie people up. But like Matt touched on a little bit earlier, Dennis Rader was big on explaining that he had projects. Like he thought of he was like a hunter hunting a deer. Like it was a project to him. He excuse me, he would stalk people. He would pick out victims and watch them kind of survey the land before striking. And in some cases it didn't work out for him. In some cases it did. But it's just so fucking creepy that that's what he did. Like, I've mentioned this 1,002 times. Like, stalking is one of the most horrific things I think that can ever happen, because nothing skeeves me out more than someone watching you but you not knowing it. I think that's one of my biggest fears, at least. Matt, do you agree?
Hands down, yeah. I mean, I wonder about that all the time. I'm constantly looking over my shoulder and wondering about people, and that's not out of a paranoia. It's just like,
yeah.
I guess I've read too many.
Yeah, every
like
fucking day I'm like, I'm gonna run in my car. But so one of his other victims, and the last one that we're gonna play, him confessing to.
Him fully confessing to.
Yeah, and this is one of the ones that we were talking about earlier, where it's so weird that he has like this fantasy in mind, but then he treats some of the people like nicely.
Yeah.
And this is one of the biggest cases where that happened, because in 1977, in March, he tied up and strangled Shirley Vaughn. So I'm going to cut in here real quick. I pronounced Shirley's last name horrifically wrong. I apologize. Throughout this, you'll hear me say it. Vaughn, it's V-N. So sorry I suck. I just wanted to insert that I did recognize my mistake. I'll make a bazillion more throughout this podcast than every other. I am shit at enunciating things, pronunciations. I'm shit at it all. So please forgive me. It's VN, I believe. Locking her kids in the bathroom. Now he'll explain here in a second. We'll let him talk about it. But he gave them toys. He got them out of the way. Which tells me it's like, okay, the first family you did this to, you killed the kids. So what happened here? And it was weird. I think this was part of it because Shirley Vaughn was completely random as a victim. Mm-hmm. He was he was not one of her projects. He had a different project in mind. And she didn't work out, or he'll explain it to you. Ready? Here we go.
Yeah.
Actually, on that one, she was completely random. There was actually someone across from Dylan's was a potential target. It was called Project Green, I think. I had project numbers assigned to it. And that particular day, I drove to Dylan's, parked in the parking lot, watched this particular residence, and then got out of the car and walked over to it. It's probably the police report, the address. I don't remember the address now. Knocked. Nobody answered it. So I was all keyed up. So I just started going through the neighborhood. I'd been through the neighborhood before. I kind of knew a little of the layout of the neighborhood. I've been through the back alleys, knew where some certain people lived. While I was walking down Hydraulic, met a young boy and asked him if he ID some pictures. Kind of as a ruse, I guess, a ruse, did you call it? And kind of feel it out. And saw where he went. And I went to another address and knocked on the door. Nobody opened the door, so I just noticed where he went and went to the house and we went from there.
Now you call these projects, were these sexual fantasies also?
Potential hits. Yeah, in my world, that's what I call them.
So
They're
you
called
went,
projects, hits.
all right, and why did you have these potential hits? Was this to gratify some sexual interest? Or?
Yes, sir. I had a lot of them, so it's just, if one didn't work out, I just moved to another one.
So, as I'm to understand it, then on the 17th of March, 1977, you saw this little boy go into a residence, and you tried another residence. No one was there. You tried another residence. No one was there, so you went to the residence with the little boy.
Yeah. And I watched where he went.
What happened then?
After I tried this one residence, nobody came to the door. I went to this house where he went in, knocked on the door, and told him I was a private detective. Showed him a picture that I had just showed the boy, and asked him if they could ID the picture. And at that time, I had the gun here, and I just kind of forced myself in. I just walked in, just opened the door and walked in, and then pulled a pistol.
What gun? What pistol?
357 Magnum.
So you only had one gun with the pistol?
Yes, sir.
What happened then?
I told Mrs. Esquyan that I had a problem with sexual fantasies, that I was going to tie her up, and that I might have to tie the kids up, and that she would cooperate with me at that time. We went back. She was extremely nervous. I think she even smoked a cigarette, and we went back to one of the back areas, the porch, explained to her that I had done this before. I think she would, at that point in time, I think she was sick because she had her night robe on. And I think if I remember right, she had been sick. And I think she came out of the bedroom when I went in the house. So anyway, we went back to her bedroom, and I proceeded to tie the kids up. And they started crying and got real upset. So I said, "Oh, this is not going to work." So we moved them to the bathroom. She helped me, and then I tied the doors shut. We put some toys and blankets and odds and ends in there for the kids.
Yeah, like what?
What?
I mean, what? Okay.
It doesn't make a fucking lick of sense, and I don't know if it's because they're random, or if I don't understand, or if like within his fantasies he had certain plans for certain people, and in this case, I guess the kids weren't involved at all. But I don't know. We just have one more minute of this guy fucking bullshitting about his dumb fucking self.
Tied one of the bathroom doors shut so they couldn't open it, and she went back and helped me shove the bed up against the other bathroom door, and then I proceeded to tie her up. She got sick, threw up, got her a glass of water, comforted her a little bit, and then I went ahead and tied her up, and then put a bag over her head and strangled her.
All right. Was this a plastic bag also?
Yes, sir. I think it was, but I could be wrong on that.
It
was something. I'm sure it was a plastic bag, yeah.
You say you put a bag over her head and strangled her. What did you strangle her with?
I think on that I had tied her legs to the bedpost and worked up with the rope all the way up, and then what I had left over I looped over her neck.
So you used this rope to strangle her?
Yes, I think it's the same one that I tied her body with.
What happened then?
Well, the kids were really banging on the door, hollering, screaming, and then the telephone rang, and they had talked about earlier that the neighbor was going to check on them, so I cleaned everything up real quick and got out of there, left, and went back into my car.
When you say you cleaned everything
well, I mean, put my stuff, I had a briefcase, whatever I had laying around, the ropes, tape, cords, I threw that in there. Whatever that I had that I brought in the house.
And you brought that to the bride residence also?
Now there is some there. I think there's some basic stuff, but I don't remember bringing total stuff like I did to some of the others.
Was this a kit that you had prepared?
Yeah, yes, I called it my hit kit.
All right, let's talk. So he admits to bringing a hit kit to all of his fucking hits.
This was something he actually did, I read, admit to police that he had done. Like, not to police, but, like, he was telling police that, like, I have my hit kit ready and I'm on the prowl. Like, he was taunting them, saying that he was, like, on the run and on the way to, do these things and was ready at any time.
Yeah, and so after this unfortunate and horrible murder of Shirley Vaughn, he then struck again in December and strangled Nancy Fox, who was another one of his quote-unquote projects in her home, and then he called the police himself to report the homicide. Now, like I said, he liked to taunt police. He liked to brag, let it be known he wanted to play this cat and mouse game, and so he wrote another letter about his attack on Nancy, and Matt will do a dramatic reading of his poem called "Oh, Death to Nancy." Take it away, Matt.
Death to Nancy. What is that I can see? Cold, icy hands taking hold of me. For death has come, you all can see. Hell has opened its gate to me. Oh, death. Oh, death. Can't you spare me? Over for another year. I'll stuff your jaws till you can't talk. I'll bind your legs till you can't walk. I'll tie your hands till you can't make a stand. And finally, I'll close your eyes so you can't see. I'll bring sexual death unto you for me.
Yep, so that's a really fucked up thing he sent the...
Yeah, it's super disturbing.
Yeah, and he did a bunch of these. He wrote another one, actually, Matt, called "Oh, Anna, Why Didn't You Appear?" And I can pull it up and you can read it again as well. But basically, "Oh, Anna, Why Didn't You Appear?" was all about a planned hit he had where he broke into this woman's house and he was planning on attacking her, and she ended up not coming home. If that's not fucking fate, I don't know what is. So he wrote this poem, "Oh, Anna, Why Didn't You Appear?" And I'm going to pull it up so Matt can read it because I think it'll just be interesting to hear his second poem. Hold on one second. "Oh, Anna, why didn't you appear?" Matt, reading Dennis Rader, a.k.a. the BTK's dumb fucking poem. "Oh, Anna, why didn't you appear?"
'Twas perfect plan of deviant pleasure so bold on that spring night. My inner felling hot with propension of the new awakening season. Warm, wet with inner fear and rapture, my pleasure of entanglement, like new vines at night. Oh, Anna, why didn't you appear? Drop of fear, fresh spring rain would roll down from your nakedness to the scent to lofty fever that burns within. In that small world of longing, fear, rapture, and desperation, the game we play, fall on devil ears, fantasy spring forth, mounts to storm fury, then winter calm at the end, I think. Clam is just weird. Oh, Anna, why didn't you appear? Alone now in another time span, I lay with sweet and rapture garment across most private thought. Bed of spring, moist grass, clean before the sun, enslaved with control, warm wind scenting the air, sunlight sparkled tears, eyes so deep and clear. Alone again I trod in past memory of mirrors, and ponder why for number 8 was not. Oh, Anna, why didn't you appear?
What a beautiful rendition, Matt.
Well, I'm reading that and all the time being like, wow, I don't know what the hell he's talking about.
Yeah.
I mean, I do know what he's talking
Well,
about.
he left that in her house.
He
Can
did.
you imagine
Yeah.
coming
So,
home?
How cryptic is that?
Yeah. And finding that in his home. In his home. In her home.
Yeah.
That's fucking craziness. So anyways, so he taunted the police, would always send drawings, depictions, anything he could to taunt the police and kind of brag about what he was doing. Now keep in mind, as we discussed, Matt, this entire fucking time he's working for ADT, he was working
installing security systems in houses
for these people that were fearing the news coming out about all these people being attacked in their homes in Wichita. And so it's just so crazy because he's in these houses.
He's picking victims at work, basically. He was taking time out of his day to be like, I like her.
But like we said, he lived this alternative life because during all of this murder and carnage, he was said to be an attentive husband, a great dad, and
He's active on the board at church and the Cub Scouts, and he was like a well-known parent in the community.
Yeah. So then after he attacked, or he tried to attack Anna, the year later he killed Vicky Wiggerly. He killed Vicky Wiggerly in her home. I didn't really dig up much about that. This guy's sick, and he kind of followed suit with the same shit.
Yeah, BTK was a methodical killer. He did much the same with all of his murder victims.
Yeah, and it was a whole planned out process, so it was very methodical in that he knew every part of the way that how he wanted to fulfill his fantasies.
Yep.
Now, his final known victim is Dolores Davis, and she was taken from her home on January 19th, 1991. So that's his final known victim.
So you're looking at how many years there of him being active?
So it started in 1974, and I'm bad at math, so you helped me with there. So 1974 to
17 years to 91.
This motherfucker, like, how did they not? Like, I just don't get it. I don't get it. And there was even a witness.
There was a witness. There were people
Kevin
that
survived. The kids in the one.
Him. Yep.
So many news stories obviously were obsessed with BTK. This whole fascination. Obviously, there's a serial killer on the loose. Mm-hmm. He's striking people randomly, or so they think randomly. And marking the 30th anniversary on the Otero murders, BTK ended up resurfacing. So he stayed quiet from 1991 to 2004, laying low, probably being an attentive husband and a good dad, and, doing his damn thing. And he resurfaced, and he sent local media outlets and authorities several letters filled with items related to his crimes, including pictures, a word puzzle, and an outline for the BTK story. He was already trying to picture his fucking Lifetime movie made about him.
He was trying to do
this.
He
clearly wanted some kind of fame.
Yeah, he thought he would be a celebrity out of this.
And he kind of was in his own right. It's like what we were talking about last episode. Is there a line that there is drawn with these kind of crimes? Should we be giving these kind of fuckheads
so much attention
when they're committing these crimes? And does that contribute to the copycats?
Well, that often begs the question,
or like Luca Magnotta's of the world.
If, just to play devil's advocate for a second, if we hadn't publicized all this about BTK, would he ever have turned himself in? Would he ever have really not turned himself in, because he didn't? Yeah. Would he ever have, I should say, put himself out there to be caught?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Would he have ever been caught?
Would he have ever been caught, basically, yeah, because he wouldn't have put himself back out there, I don't think, if it hadn't been for all the notoriety.
And we'll go over, especially with this case, how he was caught had all to do with his notoriety, how stupid and how carried away he was getting with all of this hullabaloo about BTK on the loose, and he loved it. And can you imagine his wife sleeping next to this monster and having no idea?
No idea.
And it's just insane. And like I said, the only time anyone ever said, wow, this man's got a temper, wow, this man's a little wild, is when he was a dog catcher and just randomly euthanizing dogs or being very, very strict. That's really the only reported time that people are like, wow, this man's a fuck.
Nobody mentioned, like, oh, yeah, he was, like, people like John Wayne Gacy is one who I consider, like, people mentioned.
Which we'll cover for sure.
We'll definitely do his case. But people mentioned stuff about him, like, I didn't feel comfortable with him around the kids.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. Like, he was a little bit noticeably off at times. Whereas,
always
like,
did
with
his fucking
Dennis
magic
Rader, nobody said anything about this guy. It wasn't like, oh, yeah, that guy Dennis is a little odd.
Yeah,
Like,
he
no,
was just a family
nice guy.
man. But then you look at him in this video, how the fuck didn't they see him?
Then
Like,
you see him on
this
video,
guy
like,
is what you
wow.
picture, like Lovely Bones type shit. Like the guy that you would think would be your neighborhood pedophile who rapes and kills children, even though he attacked women.
So, anyways, let's jump into how he was caught. In 2004, October 2004, a manila envelope was dropped into a UPS box in Wichita. So this was him attempting to contact police again. And in that, he included many cards with images of terror, of bondage, of children.
Which is fucking sick.
Yeah, which is really sickening, honestly. I mean, he was obviously trying to get their attention. A poem threatening the life of the lead investigator on the case, Lieutenant Ken Landwehr, and a false autobiography with a lot of details about BTK's life.
Which is what I was quoting earlier.
Yes, you were quoting, from that. And that's basically him enticing people to talk about him.
He, was writing books about himself.
Yeah, he, wanted people to be talking about him, so he's calling and sending letters to the police. And then in December 2004, Wichita police received yet another package from BTK. It was found in Murdoch Park in Wichita, and it actually had in this package, this is how they knew that BTK was contacting them. It had the driver's license of Nancy Fox, which was stolen from the crime scene, and only police knew that. It was not released to the public, as well as a doll that was bound at the hands and feet and had a plastic bag tied over its head.
It doesn't have fucking willies.
So this is, I think, when police probably established the connection, saying BTK is back. This guy is absolutely.
He resurfaced, he came out of nowhere, and clearly he wants the attention.
Yep. So in his letter, he actually asked the police if his writings, what he was saying to them, if they were put on a floppy disk, could be traced.
What a fucking idiot, mind you.
He's asking police, basically,
this man's installing fucking security systems in people's houses, but he couldn't put two and two together that the police could trace him back to a floppy disk.
Right.
And he asked them, he said, hey guys, so if I send you, like in today's day and age, like a USB with a little document on it, would you be able to trace it back to me? Like, will I be caught this way? What police officer is going to be like, oh no, you won't be caught, and be serious?
Literally.
Like, what fucking police officer is going to be like, oh yes, send it over, you're fine, don't worry, we're not going to get you off of this.
I don't think they could argue entrapment either, because he voluntarily sent this over.
Like a fucking dumbass. Like, you evaded police for 20 years?
Yeah.
And then you fuck it up because you literally said to the police, hey, can I send you something that may or may not be traceable? Can you tell me if it would be traceable or not?
Yeah.
What? Do you think he wanted to be caught subconsciously? Because there's no fucking way I believe that this man had no idea that shit would be traced.
I wonder, honestly.
Or do you think he was getting lazy?
I wonder, honestly, Lisa, if he was getting to the point that he was like, nobody knows who I am. Like, I've done all this work, and I've made this a
scary time.
Yeah, I think he, at that point, was like, somebody needs to find out who I am. And I think that's what he did. I think he sent in, So, he sent in, as we said, the floppy disk to the police, who answered his response, which I thought was actually really brilliant of them, with an ad in the Wichita Eagle, which was the local paper.
And it was coded, so it was only something
message,
that he would understand.
He would get it, exactly.
Which is great because he's looking out for this. Like, it's someone in your
They
community
were in contact
looking
with
for
him.
this. It's like a fucking mysterious pen pal.
Right, exactly. And he, meanwhile, was at the time trying to get more attention for all that he had done. And he sent them a 1.44 megabyte Memorex floppy disk to a Fox TV affiliate in Wichita, KSAS TV. Once that was actually obtained by police, they were able to found metadata? Mm-hmm. They said it was embedded in the deleted Microsoft Word document on the floppy disk. So they were able to trace it back to the computer that it was typed
And,
on.
You would think, being someone who installed security systems...
How doesn't he know
studied this? Fucking... What was it? Whatever he said, the last thing he said...
Data processing.
How do you not know that you're going to be tied to this?
I guess it's not the exact same field, like cybersecurity and security, but at the same time, you're almost kind of like... I guess Google didn't really have the same... prowess at the time.
But still, this man's a fucking idiot.
Yeah, you'd think that wouldn't.
But then, if you eluded police for 20 years and then fuck it all up by asking the police if you can send them correspondence on a floppy disk, you fucking deserve to be arrested.
Yep.
Well, he deserved to be arrested from the second one, but.
Yep. Well, what they actually found that tied him to it was the data had last been modified by a named Dennis at Christ Lutheran Church, which is where he was president. Exactly.
It's fucking insane.
Based on that, police obtained a warrant to test the DNA of a smear Dennis Rader's daughter had taken at Kansas State University Medical Clinic where she was a student.
Which is kind of weird how they put that. Because I guess they didn't have probable cause to
Yeah.
test him, so they got his child's DNA.
Yeah, which is kind of odd, but...
Yeah,
I don't
pap
know.
smear, that's fucking gross.
Yeah, a pap smear, yeah. So the DNA from that smear was processed by the Kansas Bureau of Investigation, Federal Bureau of Investigation, I would assume that is.
Do you have to, for those, I don't know if you would know this, but did they have to get a warrant to do that, or could they just take her?
No, they have to get a warrant.
So do you think he knew at this point that, like, oh, fuck?
Yes, I'm sure once they contacted her,
I'm sure,
she
yeah.
contacted him, and he was probably like, oh, shit,
Yeah.
we're in trouble now. And actually, their lab was able to determine that a familial match to that DNA sample was found under Vicky Wegerle's fingernails, which is Dennis Rader's final known victim. So from there, they were obviously made a quick connection that her family member, one of her family members, i.e. this Dennis from Christ Lutheran Church, was the killer. So they indicated that obviously an arrest needed to be made because we have a problem here.
Yeah.
So he was arrested while driving near his home in Park City on February 25th, 2005. And Mr. Rader actually was asked by a police officer, do you know why it is you're going downtown? And he replied, oh, I have suspicions why.
I feel like he was just, like, tired of his counting. He just
I
wanted to
honestly
be
think
known.
you're right, Lisa. I think he was probably like, I'm sick of living in the shadows. I want
Yeah.
people to know I've been doing this for 30 years.
Yeah.
And I've been doing it successfully. And fuck
That just
all
creeps
you.
me out, like, oh, I have suspicions why. Like, bitch.
Yeah, like, what the fuck? You must have known why.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, I'm sure you did. I'm sure he was, like, so excited to finally be, like, out in the open about this.
exactly. I think he truly wanted people to know he
Oh,
was the one
100%.
behind this. And,
100%.
Yeah. So,
And I think he likes putting off this show for his confession where he's just this monotone, don't give a fuck type of attitude. I think that's a part of a ploy. Like, maybe he
Yeah.
doesn't really give a fuck because he's psychotic, but, like, well, you know, in my mind, he's psychotic. I haven't diagnosed him with anything. I'm not a, you know,
no, I think he
psychoanalyst.
was psychotic. I mean,
Yeah.
obviously, again, we are not in any way in any trained psychiatrist,
Yeah.
psychotherapist, anything like that. But just from what I've read, again, I say this all the time, but from what my understanding is that he was a veritable psychotic.
Well, absolutely.
Who could live under the guise of being normal.
Which is the most psychotic of them all.
Exactly.
When you
That's
can
what I mean.
live two completely separate existences.
Exactly. A functioning person throughout the day, and then you could lose that and become a
This
total
monster.
psychopath.
So on February 28th, 2005, Rader was charged with 10 counts of first-degree murder.
That's what they could prove that
Yeah.
he had done.
And I'm sure he has more under
They
his belt
believe
for
it
sure.
was more, yes.
So
That
in
is
March-
worthy of note.
Yeah, so on March 1st of that year, Rader's bail was set at a U.S. $10 million, and a public defender was appointed to represent him. Now, on May 3rd, the judge entered a non-guilty plea on Rader's behalf, as Rader did not speak at his arraignment. However, on June 27th, this was revoked and Rader entered a guilty plea.
Which is where you heard him confessing.
Yeah.
That was all his confession.
So at his arraignment on August 18th, at his sentencing, victims' families made their victim impact statements, and after which, Dennis Rader was said to have apologized in a rambling 30-minute monologue that the prosecutor likened to an Academy Awards acceptance speech.
Yeah.
Which
Basically acted
goes
like-
with what we're saying.
Yeah, he basically acted like he was accomplishing something and had
Yeah.
finally received recognition for it, yeah.
Yep. Ugh.
It's chilling, honestly.
Yeah. So at the end of this, he ended up being sentenced to 10 consecutive life sentences with a minimum of 175 years, as Kansas had no death penalty at the time of the murders.
Yes.
Now, currently, He is now in solitary confinement for his protection, which pisses me off because let's fucking feed him to the wolves. But with that, he gets 1 hour of exercise per day and showers 3 times per week. Now, that will likely continue indefinitely, but beginning in 2006, he was allowed access to television and radio and to read magazines, and he had other privileges awarded to him in jail for good behavior. Now, Rader did state in a police interview that there are a lot of lucky people, which puts a fucking chill down my spine because that's what he means there is he had thought about and developed various levels of murder plans for other victims, his projects. He had people ready and lined up to be his projects, which kind of is confusing because with this floppy disk shit, I feel like he was kind of like throwing the like you had to have had some inkling, unless you're that stupid and you were just that like.
See, I don't think he was. I think he was the exact opposite.
Yeah,
stupid. I think he was really.
He got away with shit for 20 years.
Yeah,
but like, what makes me confused is like, how did he make such a big fuck up to get caught after being 20 years of eluding police?
I wonder if 30 years really.
Yeah,
30 years. Started in the mid 70s and didn't get caught till the mid 2000s. So I would say honestly, I don't think he was in any way stupid. I think he knew what he was doing. I don't.
But if he had plans to kill other people, then
why
would he give himself
caught?
up?
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, I think he would have much rather been, rather than found out and caught and arrested. I think he would have much rather been like killed in action type of thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like that would have gotten him more notoriety than even going to trial and having all this happen. So
yeah. So what do you think, Matt? Matt and Eye for an Eye.
You know what, Lisa? In this case, I wish he was dead. I don't think this guy was in any way retrievable. There's no going back.
Retrievable?
Yeah, redeemable, retrievable. I mean, he's so far over the line, there's no bringing a guy like this back. I mean, he plans and hunts and executes people.
Give me chills.
Yeah, it's truly, it's unnerving to listen to that.
To look at it makes me want to vomit.
Yeah, to hear him speak, it honestly makes me feel nauseous. So, no, I think it was met in the sense that he'll never in his life be a free man again. Do I think it was a fair sentence? I think he should have been executed. So I guess it doesn't really come to terms because I think if you kill 10 or more people, you should literally be executed. We shouldn't be paying for this guy. The citizens of Kansas should not be paying for this guy to eat and shower.
And watch TV and
watch TV and, get good behavior privileges. Like, are you kidding me? Like, where were any of his victims?
And if you think about it, I thought about this a lot recently, actually. Our homeless, which we have a homeless problem in the U.S. for sure.
Absolutely.
They have worse off than people in jail for these kind of crimes. Like, yeah, he's in solitary confinement, but he also gets a TV. He gets to work out. He gets to be left alone. He gets to have this life that some homeless people would probably dream of.
I have no problem believing in institutionalization. I really think that's a very real thing because I think it's like, well, it's that or I could go back out to nothing. Yeah. I could get 3 squares a day, a bed, my friends are here. I don't have to do anything. I'm just chilling mostly. I work out, I chill, I read. I'm not like at a job with some asshole hounding me. I'm not like going to take
Matt
care
is
of my
basically
kids.
Saying everybody go out and commit a crime.
No, but I'm saying I think I get where institutionalization sets in.
It seems like a better
alternative than being on the outside for some people. But like for a guy like Dennis Rader, it's almost like we're paying for him to still be living pretty comfortably down there. And he's in solitary confinement, yeah, but can't be that bad. He's probably reading and he's on the internet and he's able to do things, so.
Yeah, like I've said before, I have harsh ideas when it comes to people who commit heinous crimes, and murdering a gazillion people here is definitely one of those. But if we think about it strictly on the basis that Kansas had no option for the death penalty at the time, I think 10 consecutive life sentences mean that motherfucker will never see the light of day outside of that prison. With a minimum of 175 years, that I can sit with. Although I agree, why the fuck are we paying for these people? That's millions and millions of dollars.
Every year we pay millions of dollars for these people who are either on death row or who are life without paroles and are.
Why does it cost so much to feed someone a block of bread?
It costs $45,000 a year approximately to house and feed a federal inmate. One.
That's bananas.
Yeah. Think of how many
bullshit.
incarcerated people there are.
We should do that math sometime. How much money does our
curious.
country
I actually saw a
throw
figure
away?
when I was in college. I was taking a class about like the criminal process, like the process through the trial, and once you've been arrested, what you do from arraignment up to sentencing, and then processing into the system. It kind of, to me, never really made sense, though. It was like, for some of these guys, I mean, you plead guilty and you're basically done. You know, you go and sit for a while and then that's it. Dennis Rader basically got that type of deal. There was no going anywhere for him. You know, it was like, yep, that's that. Now you're done. You can come and, you know.
Yeah.
Plead
it
guilty
almost feels
and
like
then
he
you're
wasn't
out.
punished.
Yeah, I mean, he's in jail. That's it. Like, yeah, but we expected that. I mean,
yeah. When you do something fucking crazy,
yeah.
you go to jail, but
where is the punishment for him? Is my question. I mean,
I agree. How is that a punishment?
What solace can the families of his victims take in the fact that he is alive and eating and breathing while their family members not? That to me is where, like,
I also feel for his ex-wife and his kids.
His kids, yeah, I mean,
they
imagine.
got their dad was it. Can you imagine finding out that your dad did the most heinous, was who you feared, the boogeyman that you heard about,
like
was
the
in
worst
your
type
house?
of evil you could ever imagine is your family. Like,
no, it's so fucking wild.
I think honestly though, an eye for an eye was met in the sense that
I agree.
He'll never walk around again as a free man.
He won't ever be able to hurt anybody.
No,
again.
yeah, he'll never be out and be able to hurt
Unlike
anybody.
fucking everyone else we've covered that's out of fucking jail.
Yeah,
right now.
anybody. I mean, yeah, there's some people we've covered that it's truly astounding.
You could be a cannibal in Canada.
Yeah, you can
and
actually
walk free.
You can kill people and eat them on a bus, or you know, do whatever you want.
And you'll be let out. It's just wild. But I agree. I think we agree. Obviously, we would have sentenced him differently if the laws were different at the time. But I do think an eye for an eye was met. I wish we didn't have to pay for this dumb. Well, we don't, but the people of Kansas.
I wish that somebody would just put a bullet in the motherfucker.
I know. Well, what pisses me off is that he's only in solitary confinement for his own protection. Bitch, what? Why are you protecting him? Let's just fucking, like, slice him and dice him. Make a shank out of your toothbrush and go after him.
Someone do something bad.
Do something crazy.
Do something crazy.
All right. Well, that wraps up episode 9.
9 down.
Yeah. Please rate, review, subscribe. So that's all, folks.
That's all, folks.
But yeah, seriously, rate, my fucking god.
Are you alright?
Review and subscribe, please. We love hearing your feedback. We love hearing your comments. We hear a lot of it out loud, but we need to see more of it written down. It's just better for everybody because everyone can see what we're talking about, what we're chilling with, and your guys' opinions, which is what the whole thing is based on. We posted a pretty cool picture of what a fucking piece of shit looks like on our Facebook, and our Facebook is Eye for Eye Pod or Eye for Eye Podcast. If you want to type it in URL style, it's fb.me/Eye for Eye Pod. Our Instagram, which I don't really use, is Eye for Eye Pod. Our email, eyeforeyepod@gmail.com. Let us know how you're feeling. Let us know what tickles your fancies. Let us know what you think should happen to Dennis Rader in jail and why you think his dumbass decided to ask the police, thinking they'd give him a realist response about a floppy disk that ultimately led to his arrest. And how they didn't catch this
If you think that he actually was not trying to get caught, we'd be curious to hear your opinion, because I truly believe that he did that intentionally and had every knowledge about what he was doing.
I think he was just like, let's just let this fucking dragon out of the cage.
He's like, you know what? Fuck it. I'm telling everybody.
Yeah, no one knows it's me still. Fuck
everybody.
Yeah.
I think he did. I think he honestly got the. I think, like, unlike Zodiac, the difference between Zodiac and Dennis Rader was that Zodiac did not want to be caught. He just wanted to be famous for being uncatchable, basically. Yeah, like, that was the thing. Whereas Dennis Rader kind of knew, I think, that eventually he would get caught.
Yeah.
And once he heard again about in 2004, I think he wanted it to be like, let's make the whole world.
Let's light this on fire.
So call us, let us know, chime in. We want your opinions.
Call us, beep us if you want to reach us, but if you want to page us, that's okay too. All right, everyone, have a good night. We will be back with you guys soon with episode 10!
We love you.
Isn't that wild? 10's coming up.
10's coming up.
All right. Good night, everybody.
Holla.
There's some things for Fox. It was hit and miss.
Right. But
Probably if it was a control situation where I had more time, I picked something. But if it was a confusion and other things, I didn't, because I was trying to get out of there.
All right. So in regard to the Davis matter, you went around the room, took a few personal things. What did you do then?
Strangled her.
What did you strangle her with?
Pantyhose.
What happened then?
Kind of like Mrs. Hedge. I already figured out I had a plan on leaving and put her in a blanket and drove her to the car, put her in the trunk of the car.
So you were able to strangle her to death with these pantyhose?
Yes, sir.
All right. You put her in your car.
In her car. The trunk of her car.
What happened?
I really had a commitment I needed to go to, so I moved her to one spot, took her out of her car. This gets complicated. Then stuff I had, clothes, gun, whatever, I took that to another spot in her car, dumped that off. Okay. Then took her car back to her house, left that. Okay. In the interim, I took her car back to her house. In the interim, I realized that I had lost one of my guns. I dropped it somewhere. So I was trying to figure out where my gun was. So I went back in the house, realized I had dropped it when I broke the plate glass window. It dropped and fell on the floor right there. I found it right there. So that solved that problem. Anyway, I went back out, threw the keys, checked the car real quick, threw the keys up on top of the roof of her house, walked from her car back to my car. Took my car, drove it back, and I either dropped more stuff off or I picked her up, put them in my car. And then I drove up northeast of Sedgwick County and dropped her off underneath the bridge.
So all of these incidents, these 10 counts, occurred because you wanted to satisfy a sexual fantasy. Is that correct?
Yes.
Does any party desire any further matters to put on the record this time?
No, Your Honor.
You may be seated. I will find that you, Dennis L. Rader, have knowingly, intelligently, voluntarily waived your constitutional rights and entered your pleas of guilty. I will find that you understand the nature of the charges and the consequences of your pleas. Based upon your statements to the court, I will find there are factual bases for each of these pleas of guilty. I will accept these pleas of guilty and adjudge you, Dennis L. Rader, guilty of murder in the first degree in count 1, a Class A felony. Murder in the first degree in count 2, a Class A felony. Murder in the first degree in count 3, a Class A felony. Murder in the first degree in count 4, a Class A felony. Murder in the first degree in count 5, a Class A felony. Murder in the first degree in count 6, a Class A felony. Murder in the first degree in count 7, a Class A felony. Murder in the first degree in count 8, a Class A felony. Murder in the first degree in count 9, a Class A felony. And murder in the first degree in count 10, a Class A felony.